If I asked you if you could be considered a suspected terrorist, many of you would probably laugh. But that's exactly what the FBI's terrorism watch list keeps track of every day, suspected terrorists. And that watch list is well over 1 million names and counting. The FBI Terrorist Screening Center has put out a list of suspicious activities reporting guidelines entitled Communities Against Terrorism. These guidelines were given out to everywhere from beauty supply stores to electronic shops to airports and bus stations, instructing the workers there on how to look for a suspected terrorist by their behavior and who to report that to. Now, I think some of the behaviors on these lists would really surprise you. I decided to talk to a few people just to see if, by the FBI TSC standards, they could be considered suspected terrorists. Have you ever paid for a large purchase with cash?
Grocery shopping, yeah.
Have you ever mumbled to yourself in public?
Often when I'm looking for directions.
Have you ever paid for a large purchase with cash?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever bought coffee and paid with cash?
Yeah.
Have you ever accidentally gone out in public overdressed for the weather?
I think I am right now.
Have you ever sweated at an airport?
Well, yes.
Have you ever been given a ride to the store and been dropped off and picked up later?
Yes.
Have you ever taken extra luggage on a trip?
Who hasn't?
And the list goes on and on. To many, these behaviors could be harmless, but to the FBI, it could mean you're a terrorist. On New Year's Eve 2011, President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA. Provisions in this bill give our president the power to designate American citizens suspected of terrorism as enemy combatants. Once classified, these combatants can then be disposed of according to the law of war, which includes indefinite detention without charge or trial. Under this bill, and without congressional approval or oversight, American citizens can indeed be detained, interrogated, and even tortured, all without ever actually being charged with a crime, and all in the name of the war on terror.
This is really significant because it basically circumvents the constitutional protection of due process afforded to American citizens by our Bill of Rights. Now, in addition to that, senior counterterrorism officials have gone on record to say now it only takes a single source tip that they deem credible to land you on this watch list. So that's it. It's one source, one tip. Congratulations, you might be a terrorist. Add that to the Department of Homeland Security's See Something, Say Something campaign that's going on everywhere from airports to hotels to Walmart stores and NFL games, where they spread this message that terrorism's everywhere and anybody can be a terrorist and you better report it, and you can see where the real threat to our liberty lies. Did you know that by answering yes to any of those questions, it could ultimately land you on the FBI's terrorism watch list?
Are you kidding me? No.
What? Have you ever heard of the National Defense Authorization Act, whereby our president can have our military indefinitely detain American citizens without charge or trial if they're suspected of terrorism?
No, I have not.
That's horrifying.
What?
How safe do you think Americans are from a terrorist attack?
Not very safe at all, actually. I think that if you can pay $100 to get by the TSA on airlines, like a terrorist can't come up with $100 or frequent flyer miles. I mean, are you kidding me?
In continuing this war on freedom, a few weeks ago, President Obama signed the National Defense Resources Preparedness Executive Order. This order gives our president the power to assume total control over our nation's industry and resources in the event of a, quote, potential threat to the security of the United States. When is a potential threat? Well, as we have all been taught over and over again since 9/11, a potential threat is all the time. So when does the president have the power to assume total control over our country without congressional approval? All the time. When you add this latest Constitution killer to the NDAA and Obama's Super Congress, which effectively eliminates congressional control over spending, and all the wars we've been waging without congressional approval, and it becomes pretty obvious that America is well on its way down the same dark, tyrannical road that Germany faced 80 years ago, when Adolf Hitler, under a similar guise of protecting his people from terrorism,
signed the Unconstitutional Enabling Act. Ever heard the phrase history repeats itself? What are your thoughts on the FBI's terrorism watch list?
I think it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, some of the things that they say in it, such as like if you're missing fingers, have more than 7 days worth of food in your home, pretty much it puts almost everybody under suspect of being a terrorist. So they're really just, it's fear mongering, at its basic core, they're fear mongering.
And have you ever heard of the National Defense Authorization Act, which gives our military the power to indefinitely detain American citizens without charge or trial if they're suspected of terrorism?
Yes, I have heard of it. And I think that's compounded with the other law they originally passed, where you can lose your citizenship now. So not only will you cease to be an American, but then they'll ship you off to a place where you don't fall under the Geneva Convention. And it's pretty scary stuff, because if the stuff about the FEMA camps are true, that means that you can be indefinitely detained in a work camp, being paid 25 cents an hour, and these work camps are supposed to be set up to house entire families. Because not only does it extend to you being a terrorist, but evidently young children and your husband or wife can be a terrorist now.
Yep, that's what I heard too. Why do you think more people aren't aware of the NDAA and its danger to the freedom in this country?
Well, I think one of the big things is because obviously the mainstream media doesn't report it. But then you also have people who don't want to hear it. They're afraid to hear it. That's a really complex issue, to be honest. You have your escapists who refuse to hear anything bad. Then you got your cheerleading syndrome, where nobody wants to talk about it because it's a bad thing. Then of course your mainstream media won't report about it, and it's so.
This is a conglomeration of things.
It's a very complex issue as to why people don't want to talk about.
What do you think America's future will be like if we continue down this road?
Well, I think it will definitely be like V for Vendetta. It'll be basically a totalitarian police state. We're already working our way there with the laws we have, where our government's currently establishing an oligarchy, which inevitably becomes a dictatorship. And based on the way we're going now, it'll be a totalitarian police state.
It would appear the real threat to the American people's freedom is not terrorism. It's the war our government is waging on it. To paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, those who give up liberty for security deserve neither and will lose both. This expansion and consolidation of power in the executive branch of our federal government is dangerous to our freedom, and it can only lead to the erosion of our liberty. People need to wake up and pay attention. Look around at what's going on in this country. Tell somebody, have them tell somebody else, before there isn't any freedom left. I'm Melissa Melton reporting for Infowars.com.
Well, if things don't change in the next 2 or 3 years, the only solution will be revolution.